Warning, the following stories are crappypastas and are not serious creepypastas. If they appear to be badly read, then it is not due to me being incompetent, it is simply because the writers are incompetent. Please keep in mind that these are not supposed to be good. I am only reading them because they are so bad that they are actually really good. I especially like the one about the giraffes. Please enjoy. A few years ago, a group of college kids were getting ready for a spring break. One informed the rest that his uncle, who owns a cabin in the woods, would be gone for the weekend, and gave them permission to use it as they wish. Though one or two weren't interested to stay in a rundown old cabin for a weekend, they reluctantly agreed and took the trip. They enjoyed their weekend, and returned safely. It was a cold, damp night like always here in Ireland, but I had a strange feeling that tonight was different. It felt like after reading the Slender Man creepypasta. Then in rainy weather on under a night pole lamp, I saw a lady. She looked like she was the same age as me, 25. I stared at her for a while, then left to get something from the kitchen. I opened the fridge. Same things as always, milk, bread, and other kinds of stuff. Then the doorbell rang. I went to see who it was. It was my friend. Let's call him James. Can I come in, he said. Sure, I replied. Did you hear about that little girl who vanished? Yes, such shame. Anyways, what is it this time you want? Nothing really, I just came here to hang out. Are you feeling okay? Yeah, did you see the lady on the way? She said to give you this. I took the paper and opened it. Slowly it read, Dear Mr. G.H. I would like to say that I will come for you. T-ha-he-he-he-ha. See you very soon. Winky face. I think she must have me confused. I am not Mr. G.H. So I went out of the door and looked around the place. The lady was still there, so I went over to her. But as I got close, she looked like she was fading away. I shouted, I think you got me confused with someone else. No, I didn't. Would you like to see my other face? What? So she lifted her arm up and grabbed half her face and tore it off. There was blood everywhere on her. See my face now. Now you see fear. Now, time to go. I was horrified to see the face, to say he face ooze blood everywhere. I said, what are you? I don't know, and that's how it will stay that way, so you better get going, or I will rip out your heart and feed it to my kittens. I got up and ran as far away as I could. Now everywhere I go, I see her face smiling and saying, Run, boy, run. So please, if anyone reads this, don't read that letter. Or else. My obsession with giraffes began after I met Nathan. I couldn't understand it. At the time it was so irrational. Before I knew him, it seemed strange, something that reminds me of myself. So naturally I became friends with him. Only later did he say anything about giraffes. He invited me to his house one day, and I had nothing to do, so of course I said yes. When I went into his room, it was filled with them. The long-necked creatures were decorated on the walls. When I confronted him about them, he said nothing much about it, although I could tell he had a passion for the animal. Did you know there was actually 11 different species of giraffes? Of course I had not. I politely said no, and we continued our sleepover. We played charades. He did a giraffe or a giraffe-related thing every time. Truth or dare, also giraffe-related, until I finally worked up the courage to tell him to cut out with the giraffes. He seemed visibly deflated, but obeyed. The rest of the sleepover was a drag. I was so glad to leave. When I went home I had a dream. It was about giraffes. They were doing people things, and played around in a circus. It was the best dream I'd ever had. I awoke with a particular fondness for giraffes. It all seemed clear. I felt bad about telling him that he needed to cut it out. I called his phone. No answer. I felt a strong need to talk to him about it, so I ran to his house, a few blocks away. When I turned around to the street he lived in, I stopped in my tracks. police cars. Police cars everywhere. I could pick up a few phrases from the cops, something like, "The kid killed his parents. Oh crap. Nathan?" My friend was in a police car, smiling. He was mouthing a few words I could not discern. I looked into the house's garage. As I walked closer to the house, touching the police tape line, his parents were dead in the garage. The garage door was open, almost as if Nathan was showcasing his masterpiece. His masterpiece. His masterpiece was his parents dead, organs extended from their cut heads, looking like they were giraffes. Giraffes. My favorite animal. Nathan showed me what I needed to do. Now I stand above my parents, showing the world my masterpiece. The cops ripped me away from my victims. I don't speak it, just mouth it softly. Giraffes. As I walked into the Apple store, I noticed something strange. Most of the lights were off except for the two above the checkout counter, and one in a hallway that leads towards a fire exit. I saw a man standing behind the counter and walked over, smiling at him. "Are you closed?" I asked. His eyes shifted from the paper to me almost instantly. He opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. "I can come back later," I said, and started to turn away, but he shook his head, and stood, leading me towards a shelf of computers. He showed me a black laptop. I looked at the keyboard and screen. Then when I went to turn it around to look at the back, he grabbed my wrist and shook his head. The feeling of dread rushed down my spine. I shivered slightly, nodding. "How much?" He pointed to the sign. "Only $200. I was surprised it was so little. I nodded and he took me back to the counter, and I paid for the computer. He placed it into the box and handed it to me. I looked at the name tag he had on his chest, just noticing it now. "Thanks, Steve." He nods and goes back to reading the paper. I walk out of my computer, then drive home after starting the car. When I went inside, I had forgotten all about the computer, and accidentally left it in my car. The door's unlocked. When I remembered it a few hours later, I went back outside. My eyes widened and the doors were open. Everything in my car had been thrown out. I ran towards my car and saw the empty computer box on the back seat, driver's side. I sighed and shook my head. Damn it. Somewhere in the city, a homeless man is sitting at his cardboard box home. He smiles and opens the computer. He pushes the power button and turns it on. It boots up, but strangely, he's seen Apple computers before, but the logo on the boot-up screen was different. It was still Apple looking, but it had a skull face inside the apple, yellow teeth, and yellow liquid coming from it. It looked horrible. The man's eyes widened and he threw it towards the wall. Suddenly, the man fell to the ground. I started driving around town, seeing as if I could spot it. I had this weird feeling to go check the alleyways, and soon enough I found the computer, opened and on, and a homeless man that was laying on the ground. "Sir?" I asked, looking at him. I touched his shoulder and he didn't move. I touched his neck to get a pulse, but there was none. "He's dead," I asked myself out loud. Excellent grammar there. I looked at the computer screen and my eyes widened. I saw the man standing inside the screen. He was screaming and pounding on the glass, yelling for me to help him. I shook my head, telling him I don't know how. Dark hand-like things grabbed him and pulled him towards the garbage bin. Words flashed on the screen. "His soul is mine." I shook my head and shut the computer, and on the back of it was an apple-like thing. There was a skull with an X in the left eye, and it was rainbow-colored. There were also yellow teeth and yellow liquid coming off of them. I rushed to the store because it was only a block away, but the store wasn't there. I was only an empty building, apparently. I went inside and looked around, gaping at the emptiness. A man walked in, an old man. "Hey, what are you doing here?" he asked me. I looked at him. "I bought this computer from the Apple store that was here. Where'd it go? Did they move?" The man shook his head and looked worried. "There hasn't been an Apple store here since 1952. One day I was walking around the town waiting for something exciting to happen when I saw the most gruesome thing happen to a beautiful girl get murdered by a psycho killer, who must have bleached his skin because he was the palest person I've ever seen. He also must have cut his mouth wider because his smile was really big, and also was stained with blood, and it wouldn't get off his face. He turned around to look at me after he said, "Go to sleep." I invited some of my friends to sleep over at my cabin in the woods. All of them agreed, except the one who has a phobia of woods. Which I forgot about. So we all met at the cabin on Fridays so we could have a sleepover. I didn't think I would ever see the psycho killer again. I recognized him in the knife aisle of the store. He obviously noticed me because the second he saw me, he started chasing me with a cleaver until I lost him in all the aisles of the store. When we were at the cabin... Sorry, it's really hard to read, there are no paragraphs. When we were at the cabin, we were having the time of our lives, until we heard a knock on the door. We asked, "Who is it?" He didn't answer. All he did was start chopping the door down with the cleaver that he chased me through the store with. We all just freaked out, and then we just sprinted, who was too much filled with fear to move. "Go to sleep!" And he slaughtered him right at that spot, and chased us until Bob ran out of breath, and killed him to go to sleep. Me, Skylar, and Guy called the police department, and they came to protect us. The next night we decided not to go back to the cabin, but we decided to go to my actual house, and go to a bunch of different places until we need to go to sleep. First we went to a wings place to eat before we were tired. Next we went to the mall and saw a movie. Meanwhile, Jeff the killer was at the neighborhood weapon store buying a katana to kill the next victim with. We were very tired. By now it was 1:38 a.m. and the killer was just lurking in the shadows. Skylar was getting ready for bed when the killer came around the corner, walked up to him and whispered in his ear, "Go to sleep." And Skylar fainted from fear, and Jeff killed him then and there. Guy tried to fight the killer but ended up dying the same way as the second one, by crying. I was the last one to die 7 years later, when he tracked me down and he killed me while I was 360 quickscoping in NW3 like a boss. Go to sleep!